Scripture reading today be coming from Luke 5:30-32. But the scribes and Pharisees murmured against his disciples, saying, Why do you eat and drink with publicans and sinners? And Jesus answered, saying unto them, They that are whole need not a physician, but they that are sick. I came not to call the righteous, but sinners to repentance.
Good morning. What a great day to be together to worship God. Picture on the board is, who is he, guys? Sam. That's right. He's Sam from Gunsmoke. Some of you young people don't know what Gunsmoke is, and you certainly don't know who Sam is. Good for you that you don't know who Sam is. Sam is the bartender at the saloon on Gunsmoke. And on those old westerns, a lot of times cowboys would come in and the old bartender would say, What's your poison? Or pick your poison. And what he meant was, what kind of alcohol do you want to drink? Folks, they knew back then that alcohol was poison. And there's lots of poisons that we're exposed to in this old world that we live in. We live in a fallen world. And Satan is out there doing what he can do to devour us. And his demons are out there. If you believe in angels, which I just believe that you do believe in angels, you've got to believe that there are demons and demonic sources. And there are. They're out there. And they're trying to poison us. What is poison? Here's the definition of poison. A substance that through its chemical action usually kills, injures, or impairs. Now, that's what it is from a chemical standpoint, but there's all kinds of poisons out there. And those poisons kill, injure, or impair. Today, we're going to take a look at a few things that can impair us. What areas of life that we can be impaired by, that can stop our lives from continuing, can injure not only our physical body, but injure our reputation, injure our influence with others. All these things are poison. Anything that can injure, impair, or kill. That's what the devil's out to do. Steal, kill, destroy. He's the father of life. Poison is all around us. Now, in the world, from our physical standpoint, the first thing that we want to do is control that. You know, we have poison control centers set up everywhere. You can call a number if you think that you've been accidentally ingested some poison or actually got a bee sting and you're poisoned from that, or some other way that you are going to be killed or injured or impaired in some sort of way. We want to do something about that. We want to control that. So the first thing you can do to control poison is just pass on it. You know, I don't want it. If somebody comes up to you and says, Here, you want some cyanide? No, I don't want cyanide. I pass on cyanide. I say no to cyanide. I avoid it. And that's what you do to poison. Anything that would kill you or injure you or impair you, the first thing you'd want to do is say, no, I'm going to avoid that. I'm going to stay away from it at all costs. And if you do want to poison something like a rat, I mean, it's a rat. It needs to be poisoned, right? So you put out these poisons. But even when you do put out the poison, you know what you do? You put it in places where your pets don't get that. If you've got a cat or a dog or some pet, you don't want them to get into it. So you're trying to do everything you can to keep them away from that poison. You don't want your children in it. If you put those poisons out for those rats, you want to be places where kids can't get to it so that you can get them away from it, keep them away from it. You don't want to be near it. So you don't put the poison in your cupboard where your flour is. You're not going to put it in there where the meal preparation things are. No. You're going to do everything you can to keep away from it. You're going to pass on it. Something else you're going to do is prevent it. You're going to do everything you can to prevent poisons from coming in to your system. Well, you might do things like eat right. You know, I'm going to eat right. I'm not going to put poisons into my body. I'm not going to put too much sugar in. I'm not going to put too much white flour in. I'm not going to put too much of this and too much of that. I'm going to eat right because these things can turn into poisons that can injure me, that can impair me, or in some cases even kill me. I'm going to do some exercise, right? Now, I should do more. I should do more exercise, but if we don't do exercise, we can allow things to happen into our body that can build up. You know, things that can build up in our joints, into our liver, into our heart, into our lungs, and they can kill us. So we want to do everything we can to prevent this poisonous thing from happening to us in our system. We want to educate ourselves. We want to know what number to call when we do accidentally ingest poison. We want to know. We want to know what's right, what medicines. We're going to say, hey, I've got this problem. I've got this poison in my system. It's a virus. It's a cancer. It's some sort of poison that's trying to kill me. Well, I want to prevent that from killing me, from injuring me, so I'm going to ingest other things. I want to know about that. I don't want to put too much in my body, too much medicine. I don't want to put too little, so we educate ourselves. Why? To prevent these poisons from harming us in any way. And if they do, maybe they come into our system voluntarily. Maybe we accidentally ingest some poisons, but maybe we do it because we choose to. We're going to do like Sam suggests. What's your poison? Well, I want alcohol. I want marijuana. I want cocaine. I want some kind of poison like that. Or I'm going to eat too much sugar. I'm going to eat too much of this. I'm going to eat too much of that. And it causes great harm in my system. So what do I got to do? I go to the physician. You got to go to the doctor. And you go to the doctor and you say, doctor, help me. I have already poisoned my system. I tried to avoid it. I tried to prevent it. But it's happened to me. What are you going to do about it? Now, a lot of people don't go to the doctor. A lot of people get sick. And they let these poisons infest. And they let these poisons get worse and worse and worse. And they say things like, well, I can handle it. I don't need a doctor. I'll go self-medicate. Or I'll go do something else that'll get rid of my poison out of my system. Folks, when poison's in your system, you got to do something about it. You got to be proactive. You can't just let it sit and fester. It can injure you. It can harm you. It can kill you. So go to the doctor. Let that doctor do something to help get that poison out in some way. Folks, poisons are dangerous. And we're going to look at 3 areas today, how they affect us. Poisonous things affect us as Christians, as human beings. First of all, of course, physical. Poisonous can affect us in many ways physically, and we just can talk about that all the lesson. We can talk about alcohol and drugs. Wine, for example. Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse number 33 says, their wine is the poison of dragons. Now, that's the King James Version, dragons. Other translation says snakes. Snakes, poisonous snakes. Goes on to say, the cruel venom of asps. ASPS, that is a very venomous, poisonous snake. Your wine is poison. We can talk about that, have a whole lesson on that. What about gluttony? Eating too much. In Proverbs 23, verses number 21, it says, the drunkard, we can talk about wine and alcohol, but what about the glutton? Person who abuses food and so forth. They shall come to poverty, and drowsiness shall clothe a man with rags. Why? Because they're letting their affluency, I can have whatever I want, whenever I want, and I can poison my physical body with it. And I can do that with wealth. If I got so much, I can do it with wealth. Listen to Job 20, verse number 14. Job 20, verse 14. Yet his meat, his food, he eats so much, he's gluttonous. In his bowels is turned. He abuses his wealth and his affluences, and he just goes to gluttony, and his bowels, his internal self, is churned. It's turned. You know how that feels when your insides go to turning. Well, it's full. It is the gall of asps. It's poison of these kind of snakes within him. If we abuse our affluency with wealth and gluttony and alcohol and all these things that we have access to, it is poison inside us. Verse 15 says, he has swallowed down riches. He's just swallowed them down. And he shall vomit them up again. I know that's graphic language, but we can poison ourselves with all this affluency that we will vomit it all back up. God shall cast them out of his belly. God will get involved. When this poison comes into our system because of our abuse of it all physically, God said, I'll vomit it out of your belly. But here's what he says in verse 16. He shall suck the poison of asps. The viper's tongue shall slay him. That's poison. Folks, whenever we're involved in things that harm our physical bodies, it's poison. And wealth is one of those things. 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse number 10 says, the love of money is the root of all what, class? Evil. It's bad. It's poisonous. When we are greedy, it will poison us as an individual. It poisons our family. It poisons our society. It poisons our country. Which, this love of money, while some covet after, they have erred from the faith. It can cause you to lose your faith, that greed. And you can pierce yourselves through. That's like stabbing yourself, killing yourself with many sorrows. But thou, here's what Paul is telling Timothy. But you, O man of God, listen, flee these things. Pass on it. When you feel that tinge of greed, know something. That's poisonous. And you need to get away from that. He says, and follow after righteousness, godliness, faith, love, patience, meekness. Prevent this. Don't just flee from your pride and your arrogance and all that greedy covetousness. Run from it, but prevent it. How? Put in the righteousness. Put in the godliness. Put in the faith, love, patience, and meekness. Because let me tell you what is so vile, so poisonous to humanity, to the being. And that's just wicked living. Just being wrong. Being evil. Here's what Matthew chapter 23, verse 33 says. This is Jesus, and he's addressing a crowd. He says, you serpents. You're nothing but a snake. And these weren't just chicken snakes he's talking about. These are like vipers and asps, and we would have rattlesnakes and cottonmouths, copperheads. These are dangerous things. That's what you are. You're a generation of vipers. How can you escape the damnation of hell? You can't get away. Once you poison yourself with wicked living, you're going to pay the price. It's going to cost you dearly. In Amos, chapter number 6, and I'm going to be reading from the English Standard Version, the ESV. He says, do horses run on rocks? No, that's dangerous. Horses don't run on rocks. It'll kill them. It'll break their legs. Does one plow there on rocks with oxen? No, you break your plow. It's not feasible to plow up these rocky areas. But something that you should not be doing because it's dangerous, it's unproductive, it certainly is not good for you. Here's what you're doing. You've turned justice into poison. You're supposed to be doing the right thing, the just thing, the righteous thing. But you've turned that into poison. And the fruit of righteousness into wormwood. When we do right things, the fruit of that is good. It's pleasant. When you go off and do the right thing for someone, it yields positive effects. But what you have done, Amos is saying to the folks, you have so poisoned your activities and your lifestyle that the things that's supposed to be right and just, you've turned it into wormwood. Wormwood is bitterness. Some translations said that could be poison. You've turned it into poison. You see, we don't have the right to act physically unjustly and unrighteously and unholily and ungodly. Why? Because our physical bodies doesn't belong to us. You know that. In 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 19, what? Know you not that your body is the what of God, folks? It's the temple. It's the temple of the Holy Ghost, which is in you, which you have of God. God gave this to you. You are not your own. You don't have somebody that I can put in my body whatever I want. If I don't want to exercise, I won't exercise. If I don't want to eat right, I won't eat right. If I want to do something unrighteous and ungodly and unholy, that's what I'll do because it's my body. No, it's not your body. It's not my body. He goes on to say, you are bought with a price. You're a slave to God. Therefore, because you don't belong to yourself, you belong to God, glorify God in your body and in your spirit, which are God's. Your physical body, don't poison it. Don't use it to do unrighteous things. In 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 17, if any man defile the temple of God, him shall God destroy. For the temple of God is holy, which temple you are. God owns me. He owns you. And we have no right to poison our system physically on our own merit, on our own decisions. It's not our right. Many people do, and they do wicked things. But it's wrong. It's poison. But here's another area, people. People can come into our lives and cause a large amount of poison to be introduced into our system. And when I say system, not just our physical bodies, but our sphere of activity on planet Earth. People can do that. In Proverbs chapter number 5, here's what Solomon told his son, beginning at verse number 1. He said, my son, attend unto my wisdom. This is Proverbs chapter 5, beginning at verse 1. My son, listen to me. Attend to my wisdom. Listen to what I'm saying to you because it's very wise. Bow your ear to my understanding. See, I know stuff. I understand stuff. So you listen to me. You bow your ear to that. That, here's the reason you need to listen. Thou mayest regard discretion, that thy lips may keep understanding or keep knowledge. For the lips of it, listen, the lips of a strange woman drop as a honeycomb. All these people around you, especially these, and he's specifically in this case talking about these strange women, harlots. And it don't have to necessarily be a harlot. It could be a woman that's trying to pull you into their poisonous net and web. He said they talk like drops of honeydew. That's what it sounds from the honeycomb, I should say. Her mouth is smoother than oil. Oh, it sounds so good. People are pulling you into their direction. But, listen in verse 4. Her end, that means the final result, is bitter as wormwood. You get involved with her, and it's going to be terrible. It could be poisonous to your life. But if that's not going to kill you, listen, if that analogy of her lips drawing you into and her end being poisonous, here's what he says. Sharp as a two-edged sword. Sharp on both sides. It's dangerous. It'll kill you. Be careful with your relationships out there. People are out there, and they not all wanting to do you good. They're not all wanting to do you right. They not all be trusted. Oh, they sound good, sounds good, but let me tell you, the final result is poison. So what are you going to do? Well, in 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse number 18, here's what Paul told those folks. Flee fornication. Let's get back to the idea of the woman over there. Fornication sounds good, looks good. Want to participate? No, it's poison. So flee fornication. Pass, avoid it, keep away from it. Every sin that a man does is without the body or outside the body. But he that committeth fornication sins against his own body. You know, you can't help what a lot of people do out there, but let me tell you, if you participate in that particular sin, it's physical, it affects you socially, it affects you, it can ruin your marriage, it can ruin your relationships. Folks, stay away from that sort of thing. But we're not talking about adultery in this lesson. We can talk all day about adultery or alcohol or whatever. We're talking about things that poison our system. And people do. Do not let people poison us. Don't let it happen. Prevent that at all costs from happening. Don't get involved with that. Listen to Proverbs chapter number 4, verse 14. Enter not into the path of the wicked. When the wicked people are out there, don't get involved with it. Don't enter into their path. Don't participate in what they're doing. They're wicked. All they're going to do is poison you and your system. Go not in the way of evil men. Don't join up with them. Listen to what he says in verse 15 of Proverbs 4. Avoid it. Pass not by it. Turn from it. And pass away. Flee it. It's poison. Don't participate with these wicked people out there. They will poison your system. Be not deceived, Paul said in 1 Corinthians chapter number 15, verse 33. Be not deceived. Don't be tricked. Evil communications corrupt good manners. And that could be translated morals. If we participate and communicate and be involved with evil folks out there, we will poison ourselves. It's dangerous. It will kill us. It will injure us. It'll certainly cause great harm to our system. We need to prevent that. How do you do that? Well, choose relationships that are positive, that will build us up. James chapter number 5, verse number 16. Here's what James told the folks. Confess your faults one to another and do what, class? Pray one for another. Involve yourself with people that are willing to pray for you. People that you can go and talk to and confess your faults to and bare your soul to. People that you can trust. Not people that will harm you. Stay away from those people. Be involved with people that will pray for you. Pray for one another. Why? That you may be healed, not poisoned. Don't be around people that's going to poison your system. Be around people where you can be healed. Why? The effectual, fervent prayer of a righteous man avails much. Involve yourself with righteous people. So, Hebrews chapter 10, verse 25 says, don't forsake the assembling of yourselves together, as the manner of some is. But here's what you need to do. Exhort one another. Build each other up. Be involved with people that would help us, heal us. So much more as you see the day approaching. So wherefore, Paul said in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 11, comfort yourselves together. Be around. Why do you think church is so important? Being assembled together is so important. God knew. Now, it's His will. It's His commandment. We can't disobey God. But it's more than that. He knows that we need to be together. He knows that we can heal one another. He knows that we can comfort ourselves together and edify one another, even as also you do. That's what Paul said to the I know you are around people that are helpful. Because if you're not, if you don't take care of your physical, and if you don't take care of your relationships, it will poison your psyche. Now that word psyche is a Greek word, from a Greek word. And that word means soul, if you're taking notes, soul, mind, and spirit. That's who you are. This body is mine. It belongs to me because God loaned it to me. It's really God's. We already talked about that. But it is not me. I am not the body. One day, I will lay this physical down. The people around me, good, bad, and ugly, are not me. They influence me. They can give positive things into my life, into my system, or they can give poisonous things into my life and my system. But they are not me. The psyche is me. And I cannot let the physical body poison me. If I look at a woman and I lust after her, my body is saying, I want that. But I cannot let that poison me, my psyche, my soul, mind, and spirit. So I say, body, flee from that. Avoid that. Get away from that. Prevent that. Don't be in places where that can happen. Don't go and be in situations where your flesh can lust after, whether it's women or wealth or wine or whatever it is. Just me, my psyche, I've got to avoid it. I've got to pass it up. I've got to prevent it from happening. I've got to control myself. Okay? And I cannot let the people in my life, those that are out there, poison my psyche. I cannot let them turn my psyche, me, into an unforgiving spirit. I cannot let them turn my psyche, me, into a hateful spirit. I cannot let them turn my psyche into resentment and not willing to give and share and communicate. Because when I do that, then I have let the physical and my relationships, the people, poison me, my psyche, my soul, my mind, my spirit. And we can't let that happen. Proverbs chapter 4, verse 23 says this: keep thy heart with all diligence. Now that word keep means guard. Guard your heart. That heart is your psyche. It is you. It is your soul, your mind, your spirit. It is who you are. So guard that. Guard your psyche with all diligence. When the physical starts to pull you that direction, when people start to pull you that, guard your psyche. Guard your heart with all diligence. Why? Why should I do that, Solomon? Here it is. For out of it, out of your heart, are the issues of life. Your life will flow. That's what issue is. When you issue something, it's a flow of something. Your life will flow the way your psyche, your heart, is. If your psyche, if your heart, your soul, mind, if all of that is poison, then your physical will flow in that direction. The people you hang around will flow in that direction. Show me the people you hang around, and I'll show you a little bit about your heart. I can't see in your heart. I don't know your heart. But it is a telltale. Show me what you're doing with your life. Show me what you're doing with your body and your physical, and I'll show you a little bit of what's going on in your heart. Because out of it flows the issues of life. It controls the way your life goes. Your thoughts control that. Your psyche. Matthew chapter 15, verse 18. But those things which proceed out of the mouth came forth from the what, class? The heart. Whatever came out of your mouth comes out of your mouth because it's in your heart. And here's what Jesus said. They defile the man. That word defile means to make unclean or pollute. That's poison. If something is unclean and polluted, it's poisonous to your system. So if your heart is defiled, if your heart is poisoned, then it's going to affect the issues of your life. Everybody turn in your Bibles. Isaiah 59. Isaiah chapter 59. We're going to begin at verse number 1. I'm reading from the King James Version. Behold, the Lord's hand is not shortened, that it cannot save, neither his ear heavy, that it cannot hear. But, even though he can reach you, even though he can hear you, look at verse 2. Your iniquities have separated between you and your God. Your sins have hid his face from you, that he will not hear. Now he can, but he won't. Verse 3. For your hands are defiled, poison, with blood. Your fingers with iniquity. Your lips have spoken lies. Your tongue has muttered perverseness. None calls for justice. You don't want justice. Nor any pleas for truth. You're not interested in truth. They trust in vanity. They trust in something that is worthless. They speak lies. They conceive mischief, and they bring forth iniquity. Listen to verse 5. They hatch cockatrices' eggs. That's like a spider or snake or something very poisonous. They weave the spider's web. He eats of their eggs. He that eats of their eggs dies. And that which is crushed, you take an egg and you crush it, it breaks out into a viper. Here's what he's saying. If you go to living like that physically and with your relationships, you are playing around with poison. And if your psyche becomes poison, you'll die. Don't let that happen. Solomon said in Proverbs 30, verse 32, if thou hast done foolishly in lifting up thyself, your psyche, you think you're something. You think you are the best. You think you're more important than the other people. You think you have control over your own physical. You think that you own your own self. You've lifted up yourself. If that's what has happened, or if thou hast thought evil, your psyche has become an evil, poisonous thing, lay your hand upon your mouth. Put your hand on your mouth. Why? Because out of your mouth is going to come what's in that heart. So if you have become poison, whether you ingested it on purpose, and when I say ingested it, physically, maybe it's in some spiritual way, your soul, your mind, your thoughts, it came in, it's causing hatred, resentment, unforgiveness, and all these things, these poisonous things. If that has happened, then be careful. Because out of that will come issues. So lay your hand on your mouth, he said. Because James tells us that the tongue, this is James 3, verse 8, can no man tame. It is an unruly evil. It's full of deadly what, class? Poison. It's poisonous. Romans chapter 3, verse number 13, Paul agrees. He says, their throat is an open sepulcher. That's a grave. It's an open grave. All kinds of bad things are in that. With their tongue they have used deceit, that's lies, trickery. The poison of asps is under their lip. They're speaking things that is poisonous. Hosea chapter 10 verse 8 says, they utter mere words. It's just words. But they're meaningless. They're empty. They're empty oaths. They make promises that have no basis. They make covenants, empty covenants. And so judgment springs up like poisonous weeds in the furrows of the field. If you're having a garden and you're trying to have a good garden, let's say your garden is your life, and you want good produce, you want the right thing to happen, and you look out over that garden and you see poisonous weeds come out there. What do you want to do? You want to kill it. Get rid of the poison. Purge it out. Avoid it. Prevent it. Do whatever you can. Call somebody. Call the doctor. Call somebody that knows how to get rid of this poisonous weeds. Why? Because they're going to poison your garden. They're going to poison your life. Get it out of there. Folks, when we allow our bodies to do wicked things that is poisoning our system, and we've already done it, all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. None righteous, no, not one. Our system is poisoned. We have allowed people, wicked people who have said things, done things, horrible things, we've either joined them and did it with them, or we allowed it to poison our psyche. When that has happened, We can think we're strong and we can handle it, no problems. I'll just self-medicate. I'll do whatever I got to do. I can handle it. No. We need a physician. We need a doctor. We need help. Luke chapter 5, verse 30, as Mike read just a moment ago, when the scribes and Pharisees were murmuring against the disciples and they said, "Why do you eat and drink with publicans and sinners?" Jesus said, "They that are whole, they that are well, they that are doing fine, they don't need a physician. They don't need a doctor. But the folks that are sick, they need a doctor. If we are poisoned, we need a doctor." In Numbers chapter number 21, God was so upset with the folks that Moses had brought out of Egypt. They were in the wilderness. They had done some bad things. They had physically done wrong. They had done wrong with their relationships. They had done wrong with their psyche. They had changed their hearts, and they were murmuring against God, and they hated God. They hated others. They were poisoned. And God said, "Let me tell you what poison is. I'll punish you. I will send poisonous snakes among you." And He did. These poisonous snakes started biting people, and they started dying left and right. He was punishing them with poison. And in Numbers 21, God came to Moses and said, "This can stop." How, God? Just take a stick, make you a brass snake, put it on the top of that stick, that pole, hold it up, and just tell everybody, whoever comes and looks on the snake will be healed. And people came. They looked on that brass snake. They were healed. Many people didn't go. Some people might have stayed in their tent. "I don't have to go. I ain't good at it." They died. But you got to come. And John chapter 3, verse 14 said that is a shadow of Jesus Christ. As Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, even so must the Son of Man, Jesus Christ, be lifted up on the cross. And if we will come to Jesus, He can heal us. He can take away that poisonous that has poisoned our system. But we've got to be willing to come. We cannot just sit in our tent and say it'll all go away. It'll all be fine. Worse yet, we can't go out and make it worse by letting it cause us to do things physically, or letting it cause us to do things with our relationships, or letting it cause us to do things with our psyche. Can't do that. We've got to come to Jesus. And God has a plan. The plan is a plan of wellness. The plan is a plan of healing. The plan is a plan of salvation. And Jesus is the cure. If our poison is physical, if our poison is, "What's your poison?" "Well, it's not physical. I'm pretty good at that. I don't go around sinning. I don't go around hurting nobody. I don't hurt myself. That's pretty good. I got that under control. God has helped me with that. I'm prevented that. I read my Bible every day, and it prevents me to not go out with that woman, not drink that wine, not do that big covetousness with wealth. I can handle that because God has taught me that. My psyche is good on that front. But if it's not good, you need a doctor. The people, well, I'm okay with the people. I'm fine with my relationships. I've got everything working. Okay, good. But if it's not good, you need a doctor. And then you say, "Well, my psyche, I'm okay. I love God. I love the folks. I'm looking forward to heaven. I'm good in my soul, mind, and spirit." That's great. But if it's not good, you need a doctor. And if you need a doctor, just don't pass up this opportunity. Let's prevent it. Let's come to Jesus. While together we stand.